They claimed it was a demon, sealed in glass after a violent exorcism in the German forests. I was summoned to Vienna to decide what should become of it. In the late 18th century, Vienna in those years was a city of brilliance, terror, where music, wealth, and learning flourished beneath towering stone spires, yet fear still ruled the unseen corners of the mind. The supernatural was not dismissed as folklore. It was studied, feared, prayed against, and in some cases hunted. Possession, curses, and demonic interference were accepted realities, and when something defied explanation, it was not questioned gently. It was restrained. I was summoned there to decide what should be done with this relic. Deep beneath the imperial palace, far below the public halls and golden chambers, lay the vaults of the Imperial Treasury. These corridors were cut into ancient stone, sealed behind iron doors, and guarded by men who spoke in whispers even when alone. Relics of conquest and devotion lined the walls. Crowns set in velvet shadow. Blades rested behind thick crystal. Bones of saints lay wrapped in gold. Yet, none of these commanded silence like the small glass prism that stood alone upon a narrow pedestal at the far end of the chamber. Within that prism was a tiny black figure, twisted and unnatural, its limbs bent at impossible angles, its body frozen in what could only be described as a rested struggle. It was no larger than a child's hand, yet it radiated a weight that bent the air around it. The glass that encased it shimmered faintly, catching candlelight in warped reflections that shifted no matter where one stood. It did not look alive, and it did not feel empty. It felt wrong. They told me it had been captured during an exorcism more than a century earlier, in a remote village hidden deep within the German forests. The possession had torn through the victim and shattered the resolve of priests who had spent their lives confronting darkness. Prayer failed. Command failed. Holy relics failed. In desperation, molten glass was poured around the form that manifested, trapping it as it writhed, sealing it within a transparent prison before it could escape. They believed they had captured a demon, and from the moment the glass cooled, terror became its guardian. The relic passed quietly from church custody to private collectors, from private collectors to scholars, and eventually to Vienna, where the Imperial Treasury could guard it beneath layers of stone, sanctified ground, and armed watch. Yet, no wall, no blessing, and no ritual ever silenced the dread that followed it. Servants assigned to clean the chamber complained of sudden illness, cold sweats, and crushing anxiety. Guards reported hearing faint sounds, not voices, but something closer to breathing, just beyond the edge of perception. Scholars who examined the prism suffered persistent nightmares. Animals refused to approach it and candles burned low and uneven in its presence. Even skeptics found themselves unsettled without knowing why. Fear clung to that chamber like mold. When I stood before the prism, the weight of it pressed into my chest before my mind could shape a thought. The air felt thick, heavy, charged, as though every breath carried warning. My skin prickled. My pulse slowed. A deep instinct, older than language, whispered one message with absolute clarity. Do not touch it. What stood inside the glass did not behave like illusion. It did not resemble artifact. It radiated intent, awareness, and malice, though its form remained still. It was not merely imprisoned. It was waiting. I examined the prism carefully, studying the fractures in the glass, the unnatural symmetry of the figure within. The veil light bent sharply around its edges. The crystal was flawless, yet strained, as though holding back something that pressed endlessly from the inside. This was no simple relic. This was containment. And containment, when imperfect, becomes invitation. Those who brought me to Vienna hoped I would take it away, that Vale Keep might become its final resting place, sealed within stone, hidden in mountain shadow, far from curious eyes and trembling minds. They wanted distance. They wanted relief, and they wanted to forget what they had accepted responsibility for guarding. But some things cannot be hidden. Some things do not remain silent. This relic did not draw power from movement, nor sound, nor flesh. It drew power from fear. Whatever lives inside that glass understands patience far better than we do. Every glance strengthened it. Whispered prayer fed it. Every restless night added weight to its presence. The more it was studied, the more its influence spread, embedding itself into thought, into dream, into imagination. And imagination is the oldest gateway. I felt its pull, not toward escape, but toward awareness, as though it invited recognition, tempting the mind to linger, to question, to wonder, to stare just a moment longer than safety allowed. This was not a prisoner. This was a predator, restrained. And restraints fail. No scholar could tell me what it truly was. No priest could name it. No record explained its origin. Some claimed demon. Others whispered ancient spirit. A few dared to suggest something older still, something that predated human language and belief. What they all agreed upon was simple. It was dangerous. And it was patient. To bring such a thing into Vale Keep would be to invite its story into the heart of a place meant for protection, healing, and balance. Its presence would ripple outward, disturbing not only stone and shadow but every living thing within those walls. They believed it was a demon, and nothing tied to such darkness will ever cross the threshold of Vale Keep.
What you've just heard is real. This is a real photo of the relic, and it exists and is still rests inside the Imperial Treasury in Vienna, exactly where it was sealed, exactly where it remains watched. It will not be coming to Vale Keep. Some doors are never meant to be opened twice.